Okay, so we're back with our 10th episode of the Utility Strategy Podcast, the first infrastructure podcast to shine a light on what we love to call utility strategy. As we all know, buried utilities pose an enormous risk to any infrastructure project and create extreme uncertainty amongst the different stakeholders. The thing is that with the right utility strategy, we're able to mitigate that risk and streamline our project, which is what our podcast is basically all about, sharing and gaining all kinds of insights that will enable just that, helping project managers, utility coordinators, estimators, mappers, planners, designers, engineers, and any other stakeholders overcome the challenge of buried utilities in our right-of-way. And to help us do just that, we have here with us today Steve Rienks. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Or is it Rienks?
Yes, sir. The E is silent.
Okay. So Steve Rienks, who has 4 decades of PE experience, including the preparation of preliminary engineering studies, final construction documents, and construction supervision for transportation, highways, and railway projects. A lot for the Illinois Department of Transportation and for Illinois State Toll Highway Authority. So, Steve, without further ado, give us an intro about yourself. Who is Steve? What has he been up to in the past 4 decades?
Thank you, David. My LinkedIn profile pretty much mirrors what you just said, David. I came into Chicago back in 1988 on the construction management of the Orange Line going out the Midway Airport. So I've been in Chicago 30 plus years. I've seen the good, the bad, the ugly, and there is the beautiful out there at times too. My involvement with ASUE, I'm a member at large on the Transportation Development Institute, and I'm also involved with the Chicago Engineers Foundation as a member. I also sit on the Julie board for the state of Illinois, which is a one-call system, and I'm also in the process of starting up Utility Engineering and Surveying Institute. So that's pretty much my involvement here locally.
So hang on, Steve. You're actually starting a chapter of UESI in Chicago?
Yes, sir. We're groundbreaking.
Fantastic.
Our current Illinois section president, he wants to. It's one of his initiatives is to get that going this year.
That is fantastic. No, that's a great thing. And I also believe I saw you at a ASUE Association session a couple months ago.
Yes.
Are you also actively involved in the ASUE Association?
Only on the periphery. I can't get our owner to pull the trigger on us becoming a member. So I do attend those events virtually, and I did go to one in D.C. Years ago.
Interesting. So I see you're really active in the community, which is it's really it's such a good feeling to see when people are giving back and really wanting to affect what's going on by interaction with these community and these engineering organizations. You know, it's really a matter of mentorship. And can you give me a little bit of an overview of what your involvement has been with the ASUE, UESI, which you are now pushing forward, but what do you think you gain out of those organizations by actually attending and going and getting them started up in the Chicago area?
I'd like to think that we're in the business of trying to get the message out, and that is a ASUE investigation should be done during the planning and the design stages. For my involvement on Julie, I see Julie as a one-call center. That's more geared towards the excavators. That means they're actually out in the field, and I'm trying to promote the idea that it's a little bit late, so to speak, trying to do a ASUE investigation when the contractor is out in the field and he's got men, equipment, materials waiting to do something, and all of a sudden, guess what? There's an obstruction. Yeah, so, there's a utility.
So one of the things you're saying, you're really reiterating, is as much information up front during that initial concept phase, during that initial planning phase, even during FEED or even during master planning, as much information up front as can be held in an economical, in a value manner. And I know that you have lots of information to provide about the value of SUE and how it actually integrates in, but we'll get to that in a few minutes.
Sure.
But really, you're saying as much information as possible up front.
Yes, sir. And we've been a prime SUE consultant for Illinois DOT District 1 out of Schaumburg. So we do see the value of that, and so does IDOT. I might make mention that that's usually done phase 2, which is in the engineering, but IDOT is now moving it towards phase 1, which is preliminary engineering, trying to get that information gathered that you talk about.
No, really interesting. So just to clarify, IDOT is not Iowa Department of Transportation; it's Illinois Department of Transportation.
I should have clarified that. Thanks. We've also been a prime SUE consultant for the Illinois Tollway. So once again, we get that information to their design consultants.
So really taking information and gathering and putting it all together, it also sounds like a very project management oriented task, and really understanding how to build information, how to build Gantt charts, how to build the ordering of information, and really how to stack it up in a usable fashion. Can you elaborate a little bit of how you'd actually integrate your project management style and using all these different standards and everything right through and through within your day-to-day process, or within your thoughts of making things better?
Well, before we get into the project management, let's back up a minute here, guys, and let's have a conversation on a project. Let's just talk about right before we get the cart in front of the horse here. Let's talk about what a project. Okay, Project Management Institute (PMI) defines a project as follows: a project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. The temporary nature of projects indicate that a project has a definite beginning and end. Now, most of us being employed in the architectural engineering construction industry, we pretty much provide a service. And that's what we're talking about here, a service. That's what SUE is a service. The other two, product and result, really don't apply, since we're not manufacturing widgets, nor we're not doing results, unless you're a testing company. And even then, I might argue that they're providing a service. Now, let's talk about what a temporary endeavor is.
You know what, Steve? Just 1 second, sorry. Really, really important. We say we're not building widgets. We're not manufacturing. And a lot of times, I see when tendering goes out, they just ask for how many apples can I, or how many nuts and bolts can I get for the amount of money I'm going to be spending, and it's really a tangible item that, like you said, SUE is a service and not a nuts and bolts type of item.
Yes, sir. That's right. Now, a temporary endeavor. Well, PMI defines that as the temporary nature of projects indicate that a project has a definite beginning and end. Temporary does not mean a project has a short duration. The end of a project is reached when one or more of the following is true: the project's objectives have been achieved, the objectives will not or cannot be met, funding is exhausted or no longer available for allocation to the project, the need for the project no longer exists, meaning the customer no longer wants the project completed, a change in strategy or priority ends the project, the organizational management provides direction to end the project, the human or physical resources are no longer available, or the project is terminated for legal cause or convenience. Projects are temporary, but the deliverables may exist beyond the end of the project. Projects may produce deliverables of a social, economic, material, or environmental nature. For example, a project to build a national monument will create a deliverable expected to last for centuries. Now, I've shared this with you guys before. My words, a project at its basic level is getting things done through people.
Yep.
That's well, that should be the way it always should be, getting things done through people.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I might mention that being a PM, your skills will be put to the test multiple times through your decade-long career in this business. Years ago, I attended Dr. Harold Kersner's lecture and heard him say, being a PM is not for the faint of heart. We can save that topic for a future discussion. If you want more information on Dr. Harold Kersner, you can Google him for that.
It's funny. I've always heard being a PM is like herding cats.
Yeah. Well, I also I'll share this with you another time, but I have in my background photo an orchestra leader, and he's an engineer, but I like to think of him as being an orchestra leader. And each and every member of that band plays a different instrument and belongs to a different union. And there you are trying to organize this endeavor.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. So let's tie this into what you're doing with your projects. How have you actually used this, or what lessons have you learned over your 40 years?
Well, I've
maybe break down the 40 years as well, Stephen. Tell us what you've been up to. We skipped that part. We dove right into
Sure.
to what we want to talk about today.
Sure. I've been my career's been fortunate. I've worked, lived, visited 20 plus countries on 6 continents, and I've been around the world one time. My background is primarily transportation projects, like David, you had alluded to. It's on the planning, design, and construction side. Although now I've primarily in the office, and if I get called out in the field, it's usually not for a social visit. There's something going on there that needs
something's
attention.
happened or happened.
Yes. Something has happened, and once again, this goes back to primarily utility-related problems. For us civil engineers, there's 2 things that need to happen. The first thing is the right-of-way has to be acquired. Now, whether that's through a take, meaning the actual property is acquired, or it's through an easement, either a temporary easement for construction or a permanent easement for maintenance purposes. Next, just as important, what we're talking about here, the utilities have got to be cleared. When I say cleared, they're out of the way for the contractor to be able to get his work done. And I might give a plug for the Illinois Tollway here. They do an excellent job. In the beginning of a plan set, they have identified each and every utility conflict that is known out there. It has its own unique identifier, okay? And it tells everything about that. They actually have in their plans, they've identified what's going on, what needs to happen, and also in their special provisions, they also identify what needs to happen to each and every utility. It's very clear. The contractor understands completely what's going on out there. And if something happens, it's because of an unknown, meaning there's a utility out there that has been abandoned. Nobody knew about it, but primarily
undocumented, unregistered.
Exactly. It's an unknown, you guys, and you guys got experience.
You know what?
With this, so you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I recall the Donald Rumsfeld saying there are going to be unknown unknowns of the unknowns when we were going into Iraq.
Yes.
And when he was talking about the WMDs, he was talking about where there are going to be unknown unknowns. So,
yeah.
Maybe he was talking about utilities. Who knows?
Yeah, probably.
Good and bad.
Yeah.
And I believe he was quoting Mark Twain when he was saying that. Anyway, so I regress, my apologies. But from what I heard right now, you're saying that the Illinois Tollway actually has a fantastic utility coordination system, or a set of best practices that have really set the bar high for identifying conflicts and really giving as much information as possible to the designers and the engineers. Do you know of anywhere where this has been actually taken and copied or used as a best practice or a reference?
I want to say we probably should try to understand what goes on in Colorado. I think from what I understand, there's legislation there, you guys, that actually requires that a ASUE investigation be performed as part of their infrastructure project.
Since recently,
Yeah. So
2 years, yes.
I want to say that's probably that's the gold, probably the gold standard. I would say you guys is Colorado DOT.
Montana's also adopted it as well, by the way. So Montana's also in the right direction, and they're also going to be adopting the MUDI and ASE 75 standards. So there are a few states which have taken that that next step to elevate what the information they're attaining, acquiring, and also sharing. So really interesting that you say that, Steve.
Yeah. Maryland DOT may be another one that's out there also doing that.
Interesting. Very nice. Yeah. But that IDOT model of the utility coordination, is it a best practice anywhere else, or is it just within, the Illinois Tollway?
I got to give a plug for Illinois DOT. We're currently a prime suit consultant, like I'd mentioned, and that what we're finding out there is that they're actually, if you're a utility within IDOT's right away, you are there by permit. You are permitted. So what we're doing now is that once the utility has done their permit work, IDOT is actually sending us back out into the field to check and verify that utility was put in according to what was submitted to the permit. So that's something new here. I'd like to see that also continued.
That is really interesting. So they're actually following up and putting their money where their mouth is, not just issuing the permit and hoping for the best, but they're actually providing follow-up.
There you go, you guys. So I'd like to sort of promote that idea there, because when we stamp and seal those SUE plans, they are good for that point in time, right? And guess what happens? Now it's 6 months, 1 year, year and a half, 2 years later that the contractor actually goes out in the field. And guess what? That SUE information is outdated, needs to be updated.
Yeah, that lag between the day that it was completed, the day you signed and sealed it, you're stating to that day it was relevant. But anything past that day, things can happen.
Yes, sir. And I also might make mention, this is going to be one of my review comments on ASUE, the current publication number 38, is that what I'm finding in the SUE business is that it's somewhat of a one-way street, meaning we get the SUE information, we give it to the consultant, we stamped and sealed it, and that's it. Well, I would like to promote the idea that once the construction plans have been prepared, that the SUE consultant is given the opportunity to review those construction plans to ensure that the SUE information we provided is being used correctly. And I've got personal experience on another project for another place and time that we were not given that opportunity. And I'll just summarize it in a nutshell, is that on the front plan sheet, the cover sheet of the plans, they had indicated that our company had located all the utilities. All the utilities.
That word all, all
the utilities.
That in bold, all the utilities.
Yeah, and I defy anyone to tell me what is that word. Okay, in this particular instance, we had shown on the plans that a proposed water main was going to be installed by others. Well, guess what happened? That proposed water main was not put in the location that was shown on the plans. And lo and behold, a $60,000 change order comes across Mr. Rienks' desk here. Yeah. Because the consultant said that we had located all the utilities. Well, needless to say,
So
we were able to defend ourselves against that claim.
Yeah. That's interesting, semantics versus actual and reality, and looking at the catchphrases. And you've actually mentioned this to me as well. I actually changed something in one of my slide decks, because when I was showing a slide deck and you said the wording you have there is really important. What you convey and what you say may be two different things than what the lawyers understand.
Right. So what do you guys think of that idea of being given an opportunity to review your information that's now being used in construction plans?
That is a fantastic thing. Keeping it as a living project, having your actual ability to interact during the project to see if anything has been changed right through and through. It's actually one of the areas where we're researching in our think tank right now. Looking about that the living map, and really going forward with the living project. Because of course, day one when construction starts, there are going to be relocations. There's even early works sometimes on those major projects, and the early works have been done in coordination, conjunction before the SUE investigation, especially on those major integrated projects where there's a lot of different moving pieces. And in order to provide the proponent the best path to complete his project, a lot of early works have been done, and that might not even be included in your SUE investigation, because your SUE investigation would facilitate a lot of these early works. So really having that opportunity to look and really verify, and having your ability to augment the information, it should be a part and parcel as a part of the SUE investigation. A 30% design review, a 60% design review, even a construction, we'll call it a timeout, just to take a look at what's going on, what has moved, what has changed. So that's very interesting, and that's a great concept.
Yeah, what we're seeing. Go ahead, David.
I think that if we put a word to it, if we need to put a title to the issue, it's lack of communication. And there's a lack of communication because the data that we're working with is somewhat unreliable. Like I think that we haven't had a guest yet on the podcast that hasn't said that as-built you just can't trust them. You just can't trust them. And when there's no data that you can trust, so obviously the communication between the stakeholders is hindered because there's no trust in the communication, because each one is giving their own vision,
their own version of the truth.
Yeah, exactly. Their own version of the truth is exactly how I would put it, Ophir. Thank you.
Yeah, I would probably go back to the quote that was attributed to Ronald Reagan, although I'd have to Google it to see where it originally came from. But Ronald Reagan, he was quick to say, trust, but I have to verify. That's what we're talking about here. We need to verify just exactly what's going on there. Case in point, what we're finding is these multiple duct packages, for instance. There's multiple fiber optic companies that are in there. So if something needs to be relocated on the duct package, well, guess what? Everybody is not out of that duct package, so to speak. Meaning there's still work going on. There still needs to be a cut over, so to speak, to where it's being relocated. So the contractor gets out there. Everybody says, yeah, it's dead. Well, guess what? He takes it out. And lo and behold, there's still an active user in that duct package.
It's funny. It reminds me of my military days. And David, when I say this, you're going to know, no vidita no cita. You didn't verify it. You didn't do it.
Yeah.
So
there you go. I like that. Is that a Canadian?
No,
is that a Canadian thing?
No, it's from Israel.
Israel.
Yeah,
okay.
First time I think we've heard Hebrew on the podcast, Ophir.
Yeah, but so
Steve,
it's a funny thing you say that. Sorry, David.
Go
1
ahead,
second.
Ophir, go ahead.
It's a funny thing. It's really funny you say that. So back in, I believe in 2007, I was working on a project in downtown Toronto, and there someone had the great idea to run fiber optic cables in sewers, in combined sewers, where they took a robot and they stapled it to the top, right through and through, all the way through. Lo and behold, a year later, that company goes bankrupt. I'm not going to mention which company it was, but the company that ran the fiber went bankrupt, and some other company took over it. But there was no notification of it. With this new development going in, they had to resize, they had to upsize the sewers because they were putting in a new vertical development. And all of a sudden, they find these fiber optic cables in these sewers. On the tags, it had the original name of the owner, but it did not have the new name of the new owner. And they said, okay, they looked up the company. There was no record of it. There was nothing. They called one call, no record. They looked up the company. It said bankrupt, blah, blah, blah. The articles of bankruptcy and so on and so forth. There was no transfer of ownership. So they said, okay, we're just going to chop this and we're going to relocate our sewer. They chop this fiber line, which actually went to the school board. So they cut off communication for the school board because the school board bought it on a very reduced price. And all of a sudden, you have a large issue in terms of joint use. They thought it was very economical of joint use of putting these fiber optic cables in the sewer, on the roof, and also lack of communication of who owns it, what, why, where, lack of registration from the school board to say that we own this cable. So really in line with what you were saying, Stephen, yes, you may have a multiple duct package with 10 or 11 different providers, and you've coordinated with 4 or 5 or 6 of them. But if you don't coordinate with all of them, the work is it's just going to really impact what you're doing. So really interesting. Now, Stephen, how would we actually be able to keep track of that if we're not going to go to a Colorado system where everybody has to identify what they have?
Well,
it sounds like a major challenge.
Yes. That's a tough question there, you guys. I want to say it probably goes back to due diligence here, so to speak. At the same time, I cannot believe that someone didn't do some visual inspection, so to speak, on these structures, meaning it's very... if I would come across that situation, I open up a manhole cover and I see photos, whatever, and I see a cable running through there, I'm thinking, boy, that sure is strange. I don't think I've ever seen a cable in a sewer before. That would be a red flag.
Yeah.
That would be a red flag. But for a junior engineer, someone starting out, they wouldn't know any better, know any different. Yeah. They look at the plans, they don't see it.
Yeah.
And they say, well, looks good to me.
Yeah. No, that's so how do we actually educate these younger engineers? How do we get the word out to them? How do you actually foster and develop them into understanding?
Well, I involved with ASUE on their mentorship program, so I try to pass along some of this, but it has to be somewhat, I won't say boots on the ground, but there has to be what we're talking about here, communication between the field staff and the office staff. That's how we get this transfer of technology. We like to think about our smart devices here, but at the same time, a lot of what we're doing, you guys, is somewhat old school. We're pretty much visual here. We look at visual. We try to understand what's going on. Further investigation is needed. So.
Well, what do you mean when you say visual?
Being able to look at something. And I think you guys are in the business there of your technology, of visually doing a comparison of things before and after and during to see what exactly is going on.
That's a very high level, but yes, that is in the right direction. But it's a combination of different verifications sliced together, and that's where the real aspects of what we do. But truthfully, I really like what you're saying in terms of the hands-on passing of the information, making sure that someone understands the mentorship, which is really amazing, and I think that should be carried forward. This day and age, it's really funny how we see the generational divides. You have the people like myself and you from a little bit further back. I've been in the industry for 20, 25 years, and plus then my military before that. But for me, it's always pick up the phone and talk to the person, or walk down the hall and talk to the person. The next generation after that was send an MSN or whatever, an instant message on the instant messaging on the computers. Send the ICQ message.
And I like to think that the younger generation would like to say, "Isn't there an app for that?" No, there's not an app for that. And by the way, it's not 2 keystrokes neither. That's right.
So that's another thing. How did these acronyms get into business English? That's what I want to understand. Like, I'm seeing professional emails, and then on the bottom says LMK, let me know. I'm going, what is that? How did that get into my business email? But what I really want to understand and really want to ask you is, with all this additional investigation, do you see it being cost efficient? Because I know that there's always going to be that cost aspect that unfortunately clients are so tied into, and they see the cost and they're going, oh my God, what is that balancing point? And trying to get them to actually understand that even though there's a much higher cost threshold, it is still going to be worth it.
Yeah, let me we'll jump ahead here a little bit, and we'll talk about cost. We're involved right now on a mega project, and I'll just order of magnitude, you guys. It's $1 billion, just for round numbers.
Wow.
May not be exactly 1 billion, but it's $1 billion. So it's almost real money, so to speak. Let's just say, for discussion purposes, we'll just use 2% of the construction budget should be allocated for a complete SUE investigation. And we can talk about what a complete SUE investigation is a little bit later. So let's say let's take 2% of $1 billion. Okay, well, that's a big number. That's $20 million. You say $20 million. Well, just to order of magnitude, you guys, what's $20 million on a $1 billion project? I'll call it chump change. Okay, no, it's not chump change, but it's a small amount.
But yeah,
because that money is well spent on the front end of the project, versus when the contractor gets out in the field, and guess what? All of a sudden, now there's issues, there's problems, there's finger pointing, and
quote unquote unforeseen conditions.
Yes, but had you done a complete SUE investigation at the beginning, well, guess what? Those unknown unknowns might have been exponentially reduced.
When you think
right. By the way, the project
in the project.
Say again.
When do you think is the point in the project where we need to start looking at the subsurface? Like, what's the point? Like, what's the process that we eventually, stage by stage, start to invest more and more in subsurface utility engineering? Like, how does that look like? And specifically from a project manager perspective.
I like IDOT's approach to it. They're doing it in preliminary engineering, meaning that it's upfront. They're doing it as quickly, as soon as possible, even prior to getting into the actual design, the final engineering documents, you guys. So,
are they putting into the feasibility studies?
There you go, exactly.
And
phase one, feasibility, right? Yep.
So, using it as a trigger mechanism, is this project actually feasible?
Not only that, it has to do more with cost, meaning. There's all kinds of cost involved here. There's right-of-way acquisition, talking about structures, or right-of-way takes, utility relocations, all those costs associated. So it helps IDOT become more in tune with the total project cost.
So I digress. Sorry, when David interjected there, you were talking about this mega project, and the cost was $1 billion of real dollars. So please continue.
I might, just in conclusion there, I can honestly say that probably in all likelihood, less than $2 million was spent on the SUE investigation.
So where's that other 18 million, which is allotted, or
well,
is
it never was.
That's
what I'm getting at, you guys. It was never communicated. I see a lot of my time spent on educating fellow consultants, educating project owners, younger engineers on our staff about the value of and the benefits of a complete SUE investigation.
That's very interesting. From your lessons learned from that project, and there were change orders on that project?
That's what I'm getting at right now. The plans are now being finalized, and it's a design build opportunity for the contractor. So it's nobody's out in the field turning over dirt at this point in time, but they will be. Sure. So we can about imagine the issues, the problems they're going to have with utilities.
Now, when that happens, do you actually write into your SUE report saying additional investigation required or recommended, or you just leave it open-ended?
Our scope of work was as directed by the consultant. So if the consultant wanted us to do designating, we would do that, and likewise, if they wanted us to do potholing, we would do that. So So back to your question, we did not do a complete SUE report, so to speak. It was more plan information only.
Because what I understand right now from the ASUE 38, the rewrite, or the 22, which is coming out, ASUE 38 22, a SUE report is going to be part and parcel, part of that development process. And if you did not provide a SUE report, then it is not considered a SUE investigation.
Right, but at the same time, our current contract, we quote chapter and verse ASCE publication 38-02, which would exempt us from that. But going forward in our new contracts, you're absolutely right. A complete SUE report will have to be provided.
No, that's very interesting. And would you actually compile a list of the items which you believe should be done as value add recommendations, saying maybe we should follow up here, here, and here, do a little bit more investigation here and here? Is that something which you as the engineer would advocate for, or is that something which let's hope for the best? And
well, what I would like to say is when we get an RFQ, request for qualifications, or beyond that, we're actually want to submit an RFP, request for proposal. I would say at that point in time, get some discussion going with the owner on getting SUE language into the scope of work. Because if you don't have that specifically into the scope of work, then it's just not going to be done, you guys. So I would say
then it becomes the quote unquote the broad utility investigation.
There you go. I would like to see that language in the scope of work.
Why do you think that happens? That it doesn't become part of the scope of work?
What we're finding is there are some clients, some owners that really get it. They understand it. So I want to say it's a matter of educating, giving. You alluded to before, lessons learned, meaning, well, we had this project, it went really smoothly. Well, why did it go smoothly? Well, you know what? Everybody did their due diligence on utilities, and we didn't have those obstructions.
So I'm going to ask you a question regarding tendering and procurement. I believe I saw something from the ACEC, the American Council of Engineering Consultants, about the Bradley Act and about the QBS, quality-based selection, versus lowest low bid and first past the post going down. What type of selection process are we looking at?
Well, my career has been pretty much on the QBS qualification based selection, right? But I'm also seeing that being challenged. In case in point, you have to give two envelopes. Okay.
Yeah. The technical and the price.
Exactly. So I call it a modified QBS. and what choice do you have? Well, either you submit or you don't. That's your choices.
Where they put 10% on the technical envelope, and then 90% weight on the price envelope.
There you go. It's all a weighted average. Yep.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. It's truly, Steve. I really have to say I'm really in awe of the amount of care which you show to this industry, and the amount of passion which you really want to convey to everyone. And I'm very happy that there are people like you who are participating in the groups like UESI, the Utility Engineering Survey Institute, in which they're going to be opening up their initial Chicago chapter, their initial Illinois chapter. People like Stephen really being involved in these things. I'm actually really involved in UESI as well. I'm the Canadian liaison for the ASUE UESI liaison for the 2 Canadian chapters. I was a co-founder of both the Canadian chapters, so really happy to see that you guys are really pushing ahead with this. And the fact that you take such care in mentorship and that you believe that is one of the key items to get us to that next point is really amazing.
Thanks.
How much? Yeah. My pleasure. Giving due words and giving credit where it's due.
Sure.
I'd really like to see, and I'd really like to talk to you in a year from now, and really see, ask you the first question: have things changed? Do you see any benefit from ASUE 3822? Do you see any change going forward? Do you see any new technologies around the corner that are going to help you get there?
Yeah.
So really, it's
I got to give a shout out to Jim Anspach, and you guys know him personally, much like myself. He's the grandfather of Sue here, and I've taken his training class years ago, and I probably wouldn't be here without his experience and expertise, you guys. So he's a great resource. He's heavily involved in both of those new publications. The old publication, 38, and also the new one,
38.
Number 75 would be a NASBIL one. Yeah.
Correct. No, it's absolutely amazing. So, David, do you have anything else you want to add, or just, or actually, Stephen, do you have anything else you want to add? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Steve, from your perspective, if you needed to give one piece of advice to the upcoming engineers in the industry, what would it be?
Well, I had an old engineer years ago. He would say, get out of the office and get into the field. So I would say that's the challenge for the younger engineers because today's technology, and I see this happening more and more, they're becoming pigeonholed. And some of the younger engineers might not understand what pigeonholed means. You can Google that. But basically, it means you're being stuck in a particular slot, so to speak.
Yeah.
So my career, I've been fortunate. I've been in the office. I've been in the field. I've been back and forth and back. So I want to say to the younger engineers, that's your challenge, is to get out on the construction sites and actually hold your plan in hand, so to speak. But now we're in a Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
No, that's very interesting.
Steve, one last question.
One of the things which I really liked about.
Sure.
You ready? One of the things I was just about to say was one of the things I really liked about leadership. Oh, I saw that. I heard that. So one of the things I want to ask about leadership and really understanding, I believe also in the full mantra of from the tools to the leadership. Make sure that the people who are actually leading understand what they're doing through actually, having that hands-on experience. And it's something also I saw in the military, and also David, that all the leaders actually started from where we were as a private, going through basic training, same thing. I know that in the military, in different militaries around the world, the officer is of the blood, or the West having that the special program, but within our realm, the officer always started from the same place we were. He went through the same training, same everything, and he came up. We'll call it coming up through the ranks. He came up through the ranks, and I believe the same with engineering. if you come up through the ranks and you see the threshold and you see the actual issues which people deal with day to day, you will actually take it into account with your decision making, and it will provide you a bigger and better bank of understanding of how things are going to be done, going from A to B, because it's always getting from point A to point B. How do I get from A to B, and what decisions do I make? So, that was just my 2 cents and my quick commentary on it. But get out there, go see what it is, understand what it is, and live it.
Yeah.
I see. Once again, I'll go back to the challenge, you guys, because we're now moving into a 3D model, and that is our deliverables to the client will wind up being a 3D model. When we think of plans and specs, so to speak, hard copies, it'll be a 3D model, and that 3D model will be communicating with the contractor's equipment. It's called AMG, Automated Machine Guidance. So now, how does a young engineer, so to speak, now work with a 3D model? And that engineer's worked on a specific part of that project, whether it was the drainage, or the erosion control, maintenance of traffic. He's worked specifically on that. So how does he get to see his work come to life, so to speak? Well, he's going to have to get out in the field and see what's going on.
Well, the other thing with 3D models is it looks great, but how accurate is it? You could let's fit this in here. Let's move this a little bit up.
That's a whole other discussion, you guys. I see there's a challenge and there's an opportunity at the same time.
Yeah. All right, David. Sorry, back to you, my friend.
Okay.
I interjected in.
Sure.
Well, I think that first of all, Stephen, I'd like to thank you for being on our podcast. It's been very insightful, and I think our listeners have learned a lot from your 4 decades of experience. And I think to continue what Ophir was saying before, that your work in the industry is very much admired, and I think that it's giving lots of value back from your experience. So I'd like to thank you for that.
You're welcome, David, and I'm looking forward to a future podcast here, because I didn't really get a chance to talk about the 6 constraints of each and every project that we work on. So we'll
have to bring you back for another episode.
Bring me back for a cameo appearance. Yes.
Okay, no problem. Thank you so much, Steve.
You're welcome. Safe travels, you guys. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.